What's up, guys? Mighty Mammal Swine here, and I am here with the GBA Season 6, Week 6 Pick'em Crew video for you guys, and I'm not alone.
What's going on, guys? You got Matty Brolic here, back again, and wow, I just can't believe how tough of a season this is to call, guys. Hang in there, because I know it's definitely getting really tough.
Yeah, definitely not very good, especially when the fans pick better than you, because... I don't know. I think the fans are not very smart sometimes.
Ooh, shots fired.
Shots fired. No, I'm just kidding. You guys are great. Keep making your picks because they do actually make a difference, and the fans have been improving and now have the same record as me, which is really scary, but hey. Yeah, so far I am completely undefeated with my Lock of the Weeks. And I am the only one that still has that title. Even though I don't have the most wins, I will hold on to that until the day I die.
Yeah, it is pretty impressive, I must say. I was
you gotta make
right there with you until this past week.
Yeah, definitely. Who's your lock, Gio?
Yeah, I went with Gio.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Gio over Steve was definitely a good match to make your lock on, but I don't know. Steve played really well, and he definitely told the analysts what he thought.
Yeah, I got a big FU from Battler X after the game, so I guess it was deserved.
Guess it was deserved. If we go ahead and move on to this week's picks, we actually have the first match, the San Francisco Arcaniners versus the Boo Russia Donphan. And typically, this match would be a United States versus some European country match. But George is actually in France right now, so two Europeans going at it this week. George has been playing very, very well. He's been prepping very well. That's why I picked him this week, and that's why I made him my lock, because Lars, obviously, he just beat a good player. But George just, overall, is a more proven battler in the format. I think that his team matches up better against Lars's team in general. It's overall, things are adding up in George's favor, and it's not as well in Lars's favor, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Lars stepped it the heck up last week. He really just kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, we all knew that Lars was really good, but he wasn't having his best season so far, for sure, and he just really came and brought it to Envy, who was the guy to beat absolutely at that point. So props to him, and we know that he could definitely win this match. It looks like he actually got swept in these picks here. It looks like everyone's going for George, but Lars could definitely come back, bring the heat as he did to Envy and get another upset win. But when it comes to George did take one pretty tough loss to Envy, but he played pretty well that game, and all these other games he's just been playing well, prepping well, and he looks good. We all know him to be one of the best players in the format. We know that he's been a proven coach, and personally, I do like his matchup against Lars, because just by looking at it, Lars's team is not that fast. He's got Mega Alakazam, which is ridiculously fast, but other than that, his next fastest Pokemon, I believe, is Raichu. And Raichu isn't slow, but Raichu isn't that great of a Pokemon. It gets totally shut down by Nidoqueen, which really decimates the Donphan. So if Lars tries to bring another Volt Turn type strategy into Landorus Eye, then he could definitely have trouble trying to Volt Switch on the Nidoqueen, which will really put pressure on his team. And then Pokemon like Infernape, Latias, and Mega Beedrill really put a lot of pressure on the Borussia Donphan, because they are not the bulkiest team, definitely not by a long shot. So I think George's team is fast and offensive and matches up pretty well against also the Donphan's pretty offensive, messing up my words, offensive squad as well. But that Mega Alakazam does outspeed everything that the Arcaniners have to throw at it, and that thing is a massive threat to George. So I could definitely see this match going either way. But for reasons that you stated earlier, I am going to just stick with George.
Yeah, it's going to be a close game. No one thinks this game is going to be a blowout. I know George beat Mono pretty handedly in differential last week. But Mono's a great player, and he's proven that so far. And George just really kind of gave him the business. So we'll see if Lars could kind of go ahead and keep this momentum going or not. Raichu actually does get Surf, so does 2-hit KO the Nidoqueen.
That's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, I completely forgot that Raichu gets Surf. That's a pretty interesting coverage move, kind of reminiscent of Heliolisk. But
yeah, another great electric type.
Yeah, that's true. So moving on to game number 2 for this week. This is definitely going to be a good one. It was tough for me to pick because both guys are really solid coaches with really good teams. But I had to go with Monotui here because when it comes to watching both of those coaches, I really like what I see from Monotui every single week. Like even this past week when he lost, I just feel like he played well and, he really didn't make many mistakes. His preparation was pretty solid. He got out-prepped and slightly outplayed by George, but he didn't play bad by any means. And with that being said, if he can continue just playing well and constantly making nearly perfect mid-ground plays at all times while prepping solidly as well, I just don't see him losing many games. And Nick is definitely really great, but I wouldn't say I would put him on the level of George right now, considering the fact that George right now is one of, if not the best team in the league. So I'm not 100% sure I would want to bet on Nick over Mono because Mono put up a great fight against George, and I'm not sure if we're going to see the same level of competition out of Nick as we do see from someone like George against Mono. So I think that Mono's going to be able to hold his ground and take this win, but I definitely think it could be a close game. I'm totally open to being proven wrong by Nick because I think he is really good. I do enjoy watching him and seeing his team, so I guess we'll figure that out in due time.
Yeah, and I think the key to this match is actually going to be the Mega Venusaur, as it doesn't wall Garchomp and Mega Manectric, but it can definitely switch in and take a hit or two. And Mega Venusaur has the firepower to hit back and prevent subs and other things. So it's going to be a close match. And we know that Nick is actually going to end up winning this match because Dallas Star, you made his lock on Monotui.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
So moving on to the next match, we have the New York Metapods versus the New Orleans Pelippers. I typically just have a hard time picking against John. Dan has really been nothing but spotty this season. Good parts and bad parts. Definitely didn't come out very strong, but over the past couple of weeks he's been playing a lot better, and it's noticeable. I believe that after Dan's loss to Nick, he's going to be hungry, right? But John has a history of being able to stand up against Dan. I think Dan's only beaten him one time, and I think they've met close to 4 overall. John, he doesn't have the flashy sets, but I will give him credit. Over the season, he's been bringing some really, really interesting sets, and he's definitely told me some things he thought about bringing, which I don't know, I might have called him stupid for doing, but he definitely has some weird ideas, but at least he's thinking about different kinds of sets to run, and you could really appreciate how he's not running a defensive Landorus T every week.
Yeah, I agree with that. John really stepped it up last week. I think he played to his caliber and to his fullest potential, and also exploited his team's good potential. So in both of his losses, he played, good, not great, but he showed that he was always in the games. He's not an easy guy to beat, and I do think that Dan is great at surprising people. That's probably what he's the best at. He's someone that you cannot take for granted, even if he's not doing well. But one of the main reasons I picked against him this week is because his head just seems out of the game. He said it himself, even not only in his GBA match, but also in his match in what's the other name of his league? Is it the NPA or something like that?
NPA, NPL, one of those two, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the NPA because it's I know it's not the NPL, but
okay.
He was just saying that he's been so busy and it's been hard for him to keep up with some of these games. So if that's the case, then it's going to be hard to pick him because these games week in and week out do take a lot out of you, and they do require a good amount of effort and pressure. There's a lot of pressure on you for each game. So if he's not really in the mood or in the right situation, I guess maybe he has certain other time constraints that allow him to deal with the pressure and with the time demand that the GBA games require, then I just don't really see him coming out on top against such a good player and team. So that's pretty much the main reason I think I have to pick against him this week.
And I feel like John kind of came up with a formula to win his matches again. Kind of like a classic New Orleans Pelippers style of play. It seems basic, but it's what wins John matches. It's you have a switch in to every one of his Pokemon, and you keep that switch in healthy until that Pokemon dies. That's what he did this week, and he 6-0'd him. Miltank proved to be a great transaction for him overall, and I think he really that trade really helped to benefit his team. And I think, interestingly enough, Cryogonal might have a pretty decent matchup against Dan's team, because Dan is fairly weak to ice. And with the freeze dry as well, Rotom Wash is not the safest of switch-ins.
Exactly, you're right. I mean, the only thing that could take hits from that Cryogonal is Chansey. I mean, I guess Victini can too. I'm not exactly too familiar with Cryogonal's moveset, but I'm sure he could do something like Toxic the Victini on a switch or something like that. And then that Mega Lopunny seems to be very, very threatening just because outside of Gourgeist, and Gourgeist does take a good chunk from things like High Jump Kick, I don't really see things that could wall it. Rotom Wash, I'm pretty sure gets 2 KO'd by High Jump Kick. So, yeah, good luck to Dan trying to wall that. But on the same token, things like Mega Altaria, Victini are all incredibly hard to wall, regardless of what team it is. And Victini especially looks like he could put in some work against John's team, because even like a mix set could be really nice against, for example, Gastrodon, something that could actually take a V-Create, could get destroyed by an Energy Ball or Grass Knot or something like that. And even Landorus T with the Icy Wind if it happens to be a defensive set. So I do think that Dan does have the ability to win this game. It's just, is his head going to be in it? And is he going to be able to be the better man against John, who seems like he really did figure it out again, like you just mentioned?
Yeah, and I completely forgot what I was going to say. Cryogonal gets knockoff, but that's not what I was going to say. But yeah, okay. Mega Lopunny is one of those Pokemon, it doesn't really have switch-ins. You kind of have to force it to be revenge killed. And if John plays where he has switch-ins on his team, it's going to be a tough time for Dan. Against the Mega Lopunny, it's going to be a tough time against anyone.
That's true. Mega Lopunny is just such a reliable Mega with deceptive bulk. I mean, it's not bulky by any means, but it's not. It certainly is not too bad in the bulk department. It won't die to just any easy neutral hit, and the fact that it resists Stealth Rocks is also very useful. But yeah, I definitely think that, like you said, if John could continue to wear down Dan's team, then he should be able to clean it up. I guess we'll see what happens this week. So moving on to the fourth game, we have a very interesting matchup here. We have the San Jose Sharpedos, coached by Tom, against the San Diego Chimp Chargers. Now, unfortunately, I have to say that my bold prediction just completely went down the drain last week. And as disappointed as I am, I have to say it was totally worth the amazing video that MV made for his battle against Lars. Did you see it, Baby Nick?
I did. It was pretty funny.
I thought it was hilarious. If you guys have not seen it yet, I would definitely go check it out, because MV did a full-out impression of the well-known YouTuber ThunderBlunder777. If you have not seen him yet, then what are you doing? He is the funniest PokeTuber that I've ever seen, and he's just a really, really high-level Smogon player, so you're going to see really good content on his channel. But he says a lot of funny things that are definitely very quotable, and MV does his voice quite well. So it was just ridiculously entertaining to see MV nail a spot-on Blunder impression with that game. So you know what? Even though it stinks that my bold prediction went down the drain, I think it was worth it with the video. But, you know, MV is definitely coming off of a rough loss. That was a 5-0. And, you know, now he's got to realize that he can't let his weaknesses get exploited. It seemed like Lars really kind of figured out MV's formula to winning. So MV needs to kind of sit back and say, I can't be as predictable, because even though my sets are really heat, as he would say, his playstyle and his methods for team building have been, I guess, pretty similar week in and week out, in terms of using pretty interesting setup sweepers and offensive teams every week with just great coverage and good ways to lure or set up on a lot of different things. So if Tom is able to get the hang of that, then Envy could be in trouble unless he switches up his playstyle. So I think that's what he has to do. But other than that, I know how good Envy is. I think we all have realized how good Envy is and how good he could be. So I'm just going to have to go with him this week as my lock of the week because Tom he's playing pretty well now. He really is improving, but Envy really is still probably the guy to beat other than maybe Fizz, and he's coming off of a rough loss. I think he really does not want to lose another one here.
Yeah, and there was definitely a lot of talk about why is Landorus Eye allowed in the format. It's banned in Smogon, but why is it not banned in the format? And just let me go ahead and tell you, 101 speed is good, it's not great. In a league where you know the other Pokemon, or the other coach's team, you know the 11, a Mon that's 4 times weak to Ice, weak to a priority move, it doesn't really have a lot of good priority moves. It's bulky, but it does have a lot of weaknesses, like common weaknesses in water and ice and other moves like that. Pokemon that have been banned in the past, such as Mega Mawile, you literally, if you switched out, you would lose in most scenarios in late game, and that's not really the case with Landorus Eye. So.
Yeah, you know what? That reminds me. I just wanted to give my little take on that as well. A counter argument could be made that you can only draft, maybe 11, 12 Pokemon in most formats. And that's true. So that means that with only that amount of Pokemon, you have even less switch-ins to something like Landorus Eye than you could choose from for a potential OU team if Landorus was allowed in OU. But the reason I think that it's not nearly as broken in this type of format as it is in Smogon is for the reasons that Nick said, and then also the fact that, for example, I guess that Landorus is one of those Pokemon that can beat any type of playstyle with the right set, but people usually didn't like Landorus, or the people who usually didn't like fighting against Landorus in Smogon or the OU tier were the people who like to play with bulkier teams, cores that Landorus could easily break through while a lot of other Pokemon couldn't. So more of the bulkier players struggle with Landorus than the offensive players. So even though Landorus does get rock polish and can hold a scarf, things like that could allow it to do better against offense, I do think that if you do take it on with a pretty offensive approach, or if you do have a good lore for it or something along that line, it's easier to handle than if you were just facing it in Smogon, a Smogon format, and it was well supported by its team, and you only have 6 Pokemon to choose from to cover an entire metagame. So I think that is a big factor to why Landorus may not be as broken in this format, but I actually need to play one for the MPL this coming week, so I'm terrified of that thing as well, and I'm even on the cusp of saying maybe it should be banned, but overall I would stick to saying it's probably not as bad as people think it is.
Yeah, it's definitely a good Pokemon, but as you were saying, that there's not enough counters in the league to do it, but there's not enough counters for a lot of Pokemon in the league, and you don't draft your team to be able to counter a coach, because if you do that, you're setting yourself up for failure. You draft the best team to help you win. Obviously, some matchups are not going to be as good as others, but that's when you have to get creative. Maybe bust out a rock polished Donphan, or just cool sets that usually come to pay off. So this game, I don't know if it's going to be the most entertaining of matches, but Tom has definitely been improving. Maybe a little setback from last week. We will see how he bounces back, but I definitely want to see how both of these coaches bounce back. But it's really hard to pick against Envy because he's really proven why he should be one of the best coaches in the league.
I agree.
Moving on to the next match, we have the Utah Jasmine versus the Atlanta Hawluchas, and Fizz is kind of tearing it up recently. He beat Gio, he beat Miguel, and I think he's gonna go ahead and beat Cooper, and everyone else in the league thinks that right now.
Yeah, it's come to the point where Fizz, if you're watching this, I want to personally apologize for picking against you so many times. The first week, I believe I picked Fizz to win, and he didn't win. And then a bunch of other times after that, I thought that some of the coaches he was playing, like Chimp and Miguel, would be able to bring it home but they didn't. So he has just been proving me wrong almost every single week. So I apologize for picking against you so many times when I knew how good you were. But now at this point, you've proved it, and I don't think I could possibly pick against you again for the rest of the season, unless maybe you're playing MV again. I can't remember if you need to play MV or not, but oh no, I think you need to play Chimpact against he's in your division. So Chimpact, good friend of mine. I don't know if I could pick against him, but other than that, I need to pick Fizz pretty much every week now because that guy is tearing it up. Like you said, I think this is the thing about Fizz that kind of threw me off guard. I really like watching his post comms, but he's so silly about them that I'd never really noticed that his thought processes behind what he does really make a lot of sense just by the way he says them in his actual videos. When I was watching this past week Miguel against Fizz, I think that Miguel did make some mistakes late game. I think he was playing pretty well for the most part, and he prepped well. So I was really seeing from the other side of the battle Miguel's thought process and how that made a lot of sense for the most part, and then seeing Fizz counter that really, really nicely. So I realized that Fizz really knows exactly what he's doing, and he's not nearly as silly as he kind of acts in his post comms. So I think that kind of threw me off. But now I realize firsthand, how good he really is, and I will not make that mistake again. So just wanted to get that out there, Fizz. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and probably the main reason I'm picking Fizz, other than the momentum that he has, Cooper does not have a single switch into a Volcanion. Like, not one.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That's if Fizz can play Volcanion, correctly and smart, then I don't know what the Jasmine are gonna do. I mean, seriously, I really don't know what he's supposed to do there. Is he supposed to just? It's not even like he could predict. Oh yeah, he doesn't have a fire resist on his entire team. I remember that from when he played Geo, and I just said how like Entei could probably just spam Sacred Fire all day. So not only is Steam Eruption really, really effective against his team, but his only resist to that gets hit pretty hard by, a boosted Fire Blast. So you're right.
Looks to me like really he's going to need some Greninja Dark Pulse flinches or something.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's destruction. All right. So with that being said, we will move on to the next game, which is the San Francisco Giants, coached by Gio, against the Newcastle United, coached by Sam, otherwise known as Fufu2. And, it looks like Gio has swept in the picks here. This one was tough for me to pick just because Gio's on a little bit of a downslide. If you guys noticed earlier on in the earlier weeks, I really wanted to pick Sam because I watched him before this and I really thought he looked really good. And I liked the look of his team, but he's been losing. He had a lot of tough opponents, no doubt. But he's been losing games that I thought that he had a really good matchup in and everything. And it was definitely surprising to me. So that is why I'm going to have to go with Gio here. But I do think that Sam is good and that, we just haven't seen what he's really capable of yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sam has been severely underestimated so far, and that's probably the most advantageous thing you could have in a league with a lot of publicity, is being underrated and underestimated. Sam has a pretty good team matchup. Not only does Crocodile kind of tear a hole through Gio's team, but a Calm Minding Suicune, as it does against most teams, does a large number. Mega Banette can do some funky things, as always, and so can Klefki. So Sam has a good team. I feel like we've been saying the same things over and over throughout all these weeks, and we're just waiting for him to get a win. Maybe it's this week, but he hasn't really shown us why we should pick him. If you haven't won a match yet, it's hard to predict when you're going to win one at all, but once you get that first one, the dominoes kind of start to fall a little bit. So I think it'll be easier to pick Sam if he gets a win this week, but I don't know if you get over the Great Wall of Gio.
Yeah, I agree. Like that Kamani Suicune, it really does put in a lot of work, but he didn't bring that against Tup when it seemed like it was the perfect set, and I think that someone mentioned that Sam may have said he doesn't want to bring Crocune at all this season, maybe just because it's an obnoxious set to take down, but if that is what he said, I don't know. I'd never heard him say that, but if that is the truth, then if you're watching this, Sam, don't bring it. I would suggest not going in with that mentality because you need to do what you need to do to win. And even though Crocun is a really common and well-known set, it's common and well-known for a reason. It's just a fantastic set that has remained ridiculously effective over time. And I would not just dismiss it because it's annoying or it's common or not creative. So, yeah, I think that if he does bring Combine Suicune, that could definitely put a big hole in Geo's team. But like you said, getting over the Great Wall of Geo could definitely be tough, especially because he's coming off of 2 pretty rough losses. So he's probably got some fire in him to try to get another win back here.
Yeah, and it's going to be a close game. It's going to be an entertaining game. Probably going to come down to some 50-50 plays or something like that. Moving on to the next match, we have the Real Maril versus the Milwaukee Sawbugs. And I was tempted. I thought about it. I thought about picking with Battler X, but I know that at the end of the day, Miguel's Miguel, and Battler X is Battler X. Battler X is a terrible coach. That never deserves to win. All these bad things that I wish upon Battler X after what he said about me. No way I could pick Battler X again. Sorry. Was a scare tactic, but it didn't really work out so well.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to say something pretty similar. I really thought that Battler X showed what he's capable of last week, and Miguel, I'm glad to see that he hasn't completely given up. I was afraid that last week he may come out because he said he just wants to have fun. I was afraid that last week he may come out against Fizz and just kind of bring these wacky sets and maybe try to hack some or just do something silly like that. But he did come out and he did play hard. I know it was a frustrating loss for him, but it really was a good battle. Like it was exciting. It was well played for the most part on both ends, and the better man came out on top, and those are fun games to watch. So I hope that may have sparked Miguel's fire a little bit more because I know he's having trouble with that. But regardless, I could picture myself picking Battler X after what he showed me he was capable of last week. But after what he said about me, I mean, no one's ever said anything about me that mean. So I really don't think I'll ever recover from that, and I don't think I'll be able to pick him for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's just something about it just kind of scarred me forever.
Me too.
MIL will never be in the win column again. That's all I have to say.
That's right. I mean,
but in all seriousness, I'm obviously just joking around. But I do think Miguel has a pretty good team matchup, and Miguel has proven to be a good coach in the league. And Battler X has a small sample size so far. I think Gothitelle is probably going to be the key to victory for Miguel this week. If he uses Gothitelle correctly, I think a Specs Gothitelle set is probably the way to go. Could take out the Heatran, could take out probably the best Pokemon on his entire team, or Battler X's entire team, Sawsbuck. Could take out Mienshao, Slowbro, and other Pokemon that would typically give Miguel's team a relative problem because we know how good Sawsbuck is. But we'll see. We will see.
That and also the Talonflame, because I know you may be thinking that the Sawsbucks do have both Heatran and Slowbro, but first of all, he needs to bring both of those, and second, a +2 Talonflame is really powerful, and if he's able to weaken the Heatran or even lure it with something else, then a boosting Talonflame or even something like a banded Talonflame is really, really threatening.
Or even just trap it.
Get destroyed. So that could be a really, really huge threat, as well as Weavile just comes in and just clicks buttons and things die on the Sawsbucks team. So yeah, I think that Miguel does have a pretty good matchup, but since Miguel's team isn't the bulkiest and it is also pretty offensive, things like Mega Pinsir, Electivire with the right coverage and the right set, Gengar, those are all going to be really big threats to the Maril as well. So could definitely go either way here, but I'm going to have to go with Miguel.
And I definitely hope Battler X brings Faint Mega Pinsir this week. It's definitely gained popularity in OU, in ORAS, and deservedly so. With the priority Ice Shard, a priority Brave Bird, an SD Mega Pinsir does have the potential to do a lot of damage to Miguel's team. So if he plays it right, weakens the Weavile, weakens the Talonflame a bit, a +2 feint should be able to take both of those out, and return and Earthquake should be able to get the job done from there. So we'll see how the match plays out.
Yeah, you know what? You actually just reminded me of Season 4 playoffs when Hank the Pidgey went against Movone, and Movone had both Talonflame and Weavile as well, and Hank the Pidgey was able to sweep with a faint pincer at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's definitely a very good set. It's an underrated set, and it's a set that I definitely think will work this week.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a great point. Now, for our final game of the week, we have the Pittsburgh Piratas and the Philadelphia Scizors. Now, Tup, I also want to personally apologize to you. You've been proving me wrong almost every single week, but I know you don't see your name there picked in my column. Chimp is a very good friend of mine. I guess you could say I'm in his front office. I believe that's what they call him. So I have been busy in the last few weeks, so I haven't been able to, really help him test as much. But just getting to see what Chimp does and the effort that he puts into his preparation week in and week out, and just knowing how good of a player he is in general, I just, kind of have to go with Chimp. Also, the fact that he's my friend. But Tup, you've been playing great. I'm definitely gonna start picking you no matter what as the weeks go on. But yeah, keep doing you because you're really playing well this year and stepping it the heck up. So that's something to be said in and of itself. And hey, I would not be completely shocked to see you get a win this week, just like you've been doing it these most of these past weeks. So yeah, I guess we'll see how that one plays out. But I'm gonna have to go with Chimp because, like I said, I know what that man is capable of, and it is pretty amazing. So yeah, Chimp for the win.
Yeah, and Tup's been playing well, and Chimpact doesn't really have the greatest team in the world, but this is one of the weird weeks where I think he might actually have a team matchup with the rain versus the sand.
Yep.
Overall, I think I like Tup, and I think he has a good team, and I think he's a good coach, and I'm happy for him that he's number one in his division, which I think is the first time he's ever done that before, and I'm impressed. I don't know how long it could stay. He hasn't played against the premier coaches in the league. He's played against good ones, but I don't know how often he's played against some of the best coaches in the league. And when he played Geo, he kind of got dominated. I hope that is not what happens to him this week, and I think it might, but it could also be a very close game, and it could also be a very entertaining game. Tup definitely has a top 3 team, in my opinion, and I think it could carry him far throughout the entire season and potentially even into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a good point. Tup definitely does have a solid team, but this is one of those weeks where I think Chimpact's team is looking pretty good. I mean, Mega Pidgeot is definitely one of the biggest threats to Chimpact's team, but it gets completely matched, if not outdone, by that Tornadus in this match, because Torn, I think, has higher stats overall, even with the Mega Stone, and it also can hold an item and speed tie with Mega Pidgeot. It just
switches in and Regenerator.
Exactly, of course, it has that amazing ability, and it could also, if it's in on Mega Pidgeot, it doesn't have to worry about missing its own Hurricanes because of the No Guard ability. So 1v1, that Tornadus probably beats Mega Pidgeot more than vice versa. And if the rain is up, Kingdra just comes in and really has a field day. I know that the Piratas have Tangrowth, but Tangrowth, although it can check a special Kingdra and a physical Kingdra, whatever he wants to bring, he needs to pick the right set, and also he kind of needs that to check a bunch of other things. For example, a Metagross, he doesn't have great switch-ins to that outside of a Hippowdon. He really doesn't have good switch-ins to Diancie at all. Diancie tears up his team, except for maybe some type of Assault Vest Tangrowth, because nothing else on his team could really avoid a 2-hit KO except for maybe some type of really, really specially defensive Hippowdon or Assault Vest Excadrill, or just a bulky Excadrill as well. But if he's not running those bulky sets, then Diancie really tears him apart and gets switch-ins on a good amount of things because it outspeeds a lot of Tup's teams. So I definitely think that Chimpact has a pretty nice match here, but like I said, Tup's been playing so well that it's definitely tough to pick against him, even when it is Chimpact. So I could see it going either way, but like I said before, Chimpact for the win. I'm going to stick with that.
prove us wrong, Tup. Definitely. We would definitely enjoy seeing that, and it'll definitely be a great game. I agree with what you said, and I think that is going to wrap up Pick'em Crew for this week. Fans, make sure to follow the GBA channel on Twitter. Definitely a place for you guys to vote in the fan polls. Those usually go up sometime in the middle of the week, either Tuesday, Wednesday, or maybe Thursday, depending on how late we get the tweets out. Thank you for getting the channel to 15,000 subscribers. Definitely a pretty big number, especially for what we do on the channel and how many people contribute to the channel. Definitely means a lot.
Yeah, it's really awesome. 15K is an awesome number, and we hope that only continues to grow. So thank you guys so much for your support once again. It means a lot to us. It really does. And the fact that you guys are coming out to pick so often in the polls really makes this much more enjoyable for us week in and week out. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely looking forward to seeing you guys next week. And that's about it. Anything left you want to say, Baby Nick?
No, that's it.
All right.
All right. See you guys later.
Later.